A stolen Nisga'a memorial pole is on its way home to British Columbia after spending nearly 100 years on display in a Scottish museum. This hand-carved totem pole was commissioned to honor a member of the House of Nisga'a who died protecting his people. It was stolen in 1929 and sold to a museum in Scotland. And our next guest was instrumental in bringing it home. She was part of a delegation that went to Scotland to negotiate its return. And Dr. Amy Parent is joining us very early from North Vancouver this morning. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Good morning, Anne-Marie.
It is a remarkable story. I can't wait for you to share it. But let's start with the pole itself. It is beautiful to look at. Can you tell us about its significance?
Yeah, so this totem pole has a lot of deep meaning to us. It is a memorial pole. It essentially tells our family's history to the land and the waterways from which we belong. It also is a memorial pole, and so it was carved by my ancestral grandmother, Joanna Moody, and she had this pole carved to honor Zawit, who was a fallen warrior within our family who died protecting our nation's honor and our sovereignty. And so it has very deep spiritual significance to us as a family in terms of that meaning and the story that's behind it. And of course, as you see some of the crests within the pole itself here in the footage, you can also see that many of our family names are represented by the animal crest that you see there. The raven itself represents Zawit, the name's Awit, and then you see a carved figure on the top, which is that of a chief, and you see a very unique hat on the top, and there's 4 rings on that, and that signifies the number of feasts that that chief, Nisga'a, at that time would have had in order to support our social system and our rights and our titles as a family, and honoring very significant events in our family.
It has ancestral story, but another part of its story is how it ended up being taken to Scotland. How was that allowed?
Well, it was never allowed by our family, and of course we can now look back at history and recognize that Canada never had that right to give permission to colonial ethnographer Marius Barbeau to remove the pole in 1929 from our ancient village of Nisga'a. Unfortunately, at that time, our family had been out do some seasonal fishing. We had another village, and so we weren't home when the pole was stolen, and he was essentially able to put it in the river and raft that down to the city of Prince Rupert, where it was ultimately loaded onto a freight train, and then it was shipped across to Eastern Canada and put on a boat and then sent to Scotland, where it ultimately ended up in the Royal Scottish Museum, which is now called the National Museums of Scotland.
Yeah, and a sad part of that story was it was taken and then sold. So someone profited off of it without any understanding or repayment to your family. There is a really powerful photo of you and Chief Earl Stevens with your hands on the pole. You in particular have your palm on it. What was that like, walking up and seeing this for the first time? Because as I understand it, you felt it before you saw it.
Yeah, thank you. So as we were being brought into the room to witness the pole for the first time, and I should say that nobody in our family, since it was stolen, ever had an opportunity to travel to Scotland to actually see the pole. So it was very historic and very significant to us. And another aspect of the pole is that we believe that it has a spirit that's alive within the pole, and that happens after it's carved, and the carver breathes life into it through a ceremony. And so as we were coming up the stairs into the room to witness the pole, I could actually just feel like the room was breathing, and almost like a sigh of relief. And I remember turning around to my cousin Shauna, who was also standing right behind me, as you can see here in the picture, and I said, "Did you feel that?" And she said, "Yes, it's relieved that we're here." And so I could never have been prepared for what that felt like, but certainly it was almost like a reunion with a lost family member. We were very happy and honored to be able to see the pole, but we had a lot of uncertainty that was ahead of us in terms of its negotiations and whether or not we would be able to safely bring it home to us.
Amy, there's an expression, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. What do you anticipate this feeling like when the totem pole returns to Nass Valley, back where it belongs, back where it was carved by your ancestors?
I think it's just going to be joyous, and it's going to bring so many in our family a deep sense of peace, and just an ability to be able to be present with an ancestor that they haven't seen in close to 100 years. I don't know what's going to really feel like. I don't think you can ever really know until you're in that moment. But I think there's going to be just a lot of joy and a lot of peace in terms of knowing that this pole is coming home to us after such a long time.
It's a fascinating story with a beautiful ending. Thanks for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.